What is up, leaders? Hope you're doing well. Excited for tonight is game day. It's going to be a blast. We're starting our Seasons of the Soul series, and so I am super excited. I think we talked about that maybe a while back in a leader meeting one time. Definitely have a heart for this series because it's very close to my heart and just some of the things I'm going through. So it's going to be awesome night. We're starting with winter tonight, and so winter has kind of been defined as the dark night of the soul. So right as I say that, it's kind of a heavy, difficult topic, but I think very real for a lot of our students. It's probably the most overwhelming issue that I deal with most students, and I'm sure that most of you would agree, is there's just a lot of depression and anxiety and fear, and I think some of that is self-imposed or situational, but then I think some of it is just, man, God's got you in a season, and He's kind of trying to draw you out of what you're in, and get you closer to Him. So I'm excited because I think it's going to be helpful for some of our students, and so kind of the angle I'm going to take is what do we do when we're in winter? So winter is this darkness. Winter is this absence. God's not speaking. He's far, feels distant. You pray and it feels like your prayers don't really get past the ceiling. And it just seems like God has kind of stepped away for a while. And you don't know what to do. You don't have any answers. You're trying to figure things out, but you're not getting any help. And it is this dark, cold season, much like winter. And our tendency in winter is to run and hope for summer, when in reality what we need to do is put on a coat. And so I think God's calling our students in winter to not run, to not hope for another season, to not put our hope in what's to come and not put our hope in next, and hopefully someday this will be over, but put a coat on and say, hey, listen, God's got me here for a reason. What is that reason? And so there's a kind of going with that put on a coat theme. There's four things that I think that we have to put on in the winter season. So I'm looking at the story of Job, and so Job's got everything going for him. Everything's great, and then Satan and God are talking one day, and God says, "Hey, have you considered my servant Job? He's faultless in all his ways, and loves me in everything that he does." And Satan says, "Well, yeah. Look at what you've done for him. You've blessed him. You've given him everything that he's needed. He wants for nothing. Why would Job not fear God?" And God says, "Well, Satan, you know what? I'll let you test him. I'll let you try him. Only you can't put your hand against him. So basically, you can't kill him." And so Satan comes in and right off the bat destroys all his property and his children. So goes after all the things that he has and then his family. And the first thing that we see Job do is he rips his clothes, shaves his head, falls down and worships and says, "I've come into this world naked, I'll go out of it naked," and praises God. And so there's a couple things that Job does. When Job shaves his head, rips his clothes, it's a sign of humility. Job immediately puts on humility, and I think so often that we get caught in this entitlement of what God owes me, and in reality, God doesn't owe you anything. God doesn't owe you happiness. God doesn't owe you things. God doesn't owe you material possession. Like, God doesn't owe you. God doesn't have to speak to you. If all He ever did was come in and gave you salvation and then let your life be in ruin for however much longer you live, it would be more than you deserve. And so He puts on humility and reminds Himself, hey, listen, everything I have has been given to me by God. How can I be thankful for God when He gives it to me and not be thankful for God when He takes it away? And so just a very, very hard thing. The next thing he does is he puts on worship, I believe. Sorry, I'm not looking at my notes. Puts on worship, and so he falls down and worships God. And in worship, we remind ourselves of who is great, and what is great. I think a lot of times we get sidetracked and distracted in worship for the gift and the things that God has given us, which are great, but ultimately our worship should be reflected and pointed towards the giver, not the gift. And that's a fairly simple thing that we forget in winter. That even when the gifts are gone, even when the voice of God is gone, the giver is still around. The next thing is to put on prayer. And so basically the whole rest of the book of Job is Job just praying. And it's prayer when he's mad at God, when he's apologizing and repenting, and then angry again, and he's, God, where are you? And God, I'm sorry, and I'm nothing, and God, why aren't you fixing this? And so it's just kind of this internal battle where Job's just talking back and forth with God. And in this prayer, I think that Job begins to remind himself of who is truly in control. And I wonder if prayer isn't more for us at times. That the prayers that we have and that we send up, and why God asks us to pray continually, is because it reminds us who's in control and who's not, and we're not. And then the last thing that we put on hope. So through the whole thing, it's an incredible story of hope that Job just has, and I think that's something that's missing in students. They don't have hope, and at the end of the day, if nothing else good in your life happens, if you have Jesus, it is more than enough, and he's conquered the world for you. Even if your life on earth is terrible, God has still done more than you deserve, and that's an easy thing to say now. It's a hard thing to say and to remember in winter, but it is still just as true. God is still God in winter, just like he's God in summer. And I think that we forget that sometimes. So as you can tell through my 7-minute video, I'm very excited about tonight. Should be great. Man, get ready. Prepare your hearts, and be ready to pray for students. I'm going to have those that feel like they're in a winter season just kind of stand up, and maybe that's you too. Maybe you're in a winter season, and tonight is for you more than the students. And that's great. I would gladly write a message. I would gladly put on a whole service that doesn't really connect at all with students, but helps one of you. And one of my biggest joys in this job is getting to walk and fight for you guys, and so just love you. So I'm so thankful for you. Excited to see y'all tonight. Will's got the leader meeting tonight, so that'll be fun. Don't give him too hard of a time. But yeah, all right. I love you guys. I'll see you later. Peace.